everybody. Welcome into the Casual Sports Podcast. As always, I'm Alec Caberna. That is my Mike Wolfgang, and you're watching the Casual Sports Podcast on your sports network. Hope everyone is having a great evening or afternoon at this point. Not evening quite yet, as we get set for another show. Mike, how's it going? You weren't on yesterday. We got sports to get to.
I'm ready to get into it.
Get into it. All right, let's take it right to Horizon League as we normally do on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Obviously, the regular scheduling kind of out the window. We're in the playoff mode for Horizon League. We're now down to the second round, and we had two major shocks in that first round on games 1 and 2 yesterday. Youngstown State defeated Purdue Fort Wayne, and they did so 6-0. And then UIC, one of the favorites to come into this tournament outside of Wright State, goes down in the first round to the very last seed in Horizon League baseball in Northern Kentucky. They went to 11 innings down in Dayton yesterday, and Northern Kentucky won it 3-2. How about that? I mean, talk about coming out of nowhere and giving an absolute shocker to the sports world like that, because Horizon League, there was 3 good teams this year: UIC, Oakland, and Wright State. And Northern Kentucky comes in there and just goes, oops.
Yeah, Northern Kentucky messed it up. I mean, we got to talk about our school too doing something.
Oh yeah,
but
I mean, that was a 5-over-4 upset as well. So yeah, we had 2 upsets already.
And again, this is why I hate to keep repeating myself. This is why I keep saying baseball is one of the best playoffs there is.
It's one of the most chaotic playoffs when it comes down to it.
You get unexpected.
You don't know what is going to happen. You go into so many other sports, especially football. Football is the one for me. Most of the time, the best team is going to win. Mm-hmm. And you see that, especially in college football with the 14 playoffs. It doesn't matter who they're putting in at 3 and 4 most years. It's 1 and 2, and they're going to win it anyways. And even in basketball, when we have these massive 64-team tournaments, you still got a pretty good idea. It's probably going to be a 1 seed that comes away on top. Mm-hmm. Baseball is, you get down to the playoffs, especially the 1-game format that they do here in college. It's spectacular because all it takes is one bad day, one bad plate appearance, one bad pitch. Mm-hmm. And I said it while I was calling the high school playoffs, you have to be perfect. And it's the hardest thing to do in sports, especially in baseball. In baseball, in the playoffs, you have to be perfect. And even then, sometimes it's still not good enough. Well, I think and that's exactly what happened here.
Yeah.
You can't do much better than 11 innings tied up at 2. Mm-hmm. And then Northern Kentucky, how's the right pitch come their way? The right hit off the bat. And on the other side for, UIC, they had one thing go wrong in that game, and it cost them.
I think the thing is, we just saw at basketball. I mean, even last year we had the Hawks make a big run. Nobody expected them. Upsets, yeah. There you go. Get your bell back.
I forgot about that. Yeah. I had this bell sitting next to me. I'm like, it needs to get rung here.
It's been a while. It's since at the fall time with football season, we haven't seen it, have we?
I think no. We had it during basketball. There was some basketball during March Madness.
Just not as much. Yeah,
not as much. Yeah, every week there's a new bell ring for college.
It's been napping for the whole winter.
Don't worry, it's gonna wake up come August. You betcha.
Oh, I know.
This bell's coming alive. 3.
I know.
What do we got? 2.5 months till football.
Well, you just rung it. That's for our school getting a win there. But like I was saying, we just saw in basketball the Mavericks beat the Suns this year. We saw last year the Hawks go on a deep run and we didn't expect it. So it's starting to happen a little bit in basketball. Maybe it's just because it's so competitive. But I think in baseball, like you were hitting on, it's one bad pitch. It's one. How many times you hear in baseball that one of the biggest phrases is it's one swing of the bat. It's all it can do for you. You're down a couple runs, one swing of the bat gets you back in the game. Sometimes only one swing is what it takes to win a game, to win 1-0 or a small game. So. Yeah, it's exciting. I didn't expect any of those last. I didn't really keep up with the first round of that, but I'm glad to see the upsets.
I love it, but it feels like you go into this second round, and the championship game really should be Oakland versus Wright State. That is what's best for the conference, and obviously the winner goes into an NCAA tournament and a chance to give a little bit more glory to a smaller conference here. But at the same time, as Penguins, we want that YSU run all the way. I mean, 5 seed to the NCAA tournament, I'd love it.
Yeah, it'd be awesome. And I think it's the part where, which is good because you talk about it, we were only hitting on a couple top 2 or 3 teams top of this conference the whole year, and you see some parity in it. And I think it's, you often see
It's
with
important for
other
sports
sports.
to have that parity.
Yeah, and with other sports too, it's like, big upsets you get shocked by. It's really not too shocking in baseball because, like you said, one bad day, it's not too shocking. So, I mean, both those teams had a good game, so they were able to advance with that.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Youngstown State today will be taking on Oakland at 3 p.m. Believe you will be able to watch that or listen to that, I should say, on ysnlive.com. I see it there, so that confirms it. Then the 10 a.m. game goes on before Northern Kentucky taking on Wright State. Mike, let's go ahead and make predictions. We haven't done that, for Horizon League baseball yet in the season. They're coming down to the end of it, so we might as well. Wright State, Northern Kentucky, first game of the day. Wright State's got home field advantage. Do you think Northern Kentucky has a chance here to pull the upset?
Well, before I make a pick, let me ask this because I haven't really been too aware of this format. So, is this a series?
No, it's one game.
Okay.
One and done. At this point, the loser gets sent over to the losers bracket.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know if things changed as the rounds went on, but you want to go with Wright State because we just had 2 upsets. I don't know if it's going to continue, but. Screw it. I'm gonna give it away with both games. I'm gonna pick both those teams to keep going.
You're gonna keep on both the upsets.
Why not? Why not?
Yeah, why not? That is a good question because we have
it's baseball. You have no idea. You have no clue.
Well, I'm not going against Wright State. At least not in game 1. Northern Kentucky had to go 11 innings to do it. They went deep. That was just last night. Wright State. They've had let's see here, 5 days off since they went 10 innings against Milwaukee. I don't think Wright State is going down in their first game in the Horizon League tournament. They're too good of a team. They've been here. They know what to do. They're going to take this one. But on the other side, out of the 3 teams that I thought had a chance to win the Horizon League, I thought Oakland was the weakest. We saw UIC just get dropped. Youngstown State went into a competitive game against Purdue Fort Wayne. They got the bats going. That hasn't been a theme all season. I'm hoping they can stick with it now in the playoffs. So I got them taking down Oakland. That sets up a Wright State versus Youngstown State game 6, I believe. Game 6 would be what that is on the Horizon League schedule of the tournament. That's not the championship. That would be the semifinals. So that's where I'm going with it.
Well, I was expecting you to pick our school. I wasn't thinking you would go behind our backs and not pick them.
No, forget the Penguins. Forget the site. Forget the site we broadcast for is going to be streaming that game here in an hour.
Get that all out the window. You're going against them.
Just forget about it, man. Forget my company. I don't want a work job. I'm kidding.
I hope you're kidding.
Yeah, right.
Let's say stuff on air. Come
and
on
then all of a sudden, I get removed. That's what happens.
I was like, what the heck happened there? I still saw you at the bottom, but you weren't there. I was like, did somebody come off?
Me.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. All right, let's head over to the NBA. We talked our Horizon League for the day. We'll get back into it tomorrow. But last night, Mike, the Celtics did it again. The Celtics absolutely shut down Miami Heat. They've held them to 80 points in the last 2 games. They haven't gotten out of 80. It was 82 in game 4, now 80 here in game 5. And this is what I'm talking about. Boston is just the best team. I was talking about it yesterday on the show. This Celtics team, even with a bad night, they still shut down Miami. And Miami, they have had that depth that we talked about, how great their depth has been awful. Awful. Kyle Lowry and Max Strus have hit a combined, I think, 1 field goal in the last 2 games of the series.
Yeah, I think somebody sent that in the group chat earlier.
That's true. I think Strus got free throws as well in last night's game.
Well, yeah,
4 combined points between the 2 of them in last night's game. Well, in the last 2 games, I should say.
But you did bring up the point, and I kind of want to look at it from this angle. Is it more? Obviously, I'm going to credit Boston's defense, but Miami can't hit They can't hit a shot from a layup right now. So it's kind of a mixture of both.
They shot 15% from 3 and shot 45 threes.
Yeah,
they hit 7.
That's terrible. And it's not like they weren't getting good looks. They were getting good looks from 3. They just weren't knocking them down. But I think in the interior, in the mid-range game, and inside, Boston's defense it's legit. These guys are trying to drive and put the ball on the floor. They're getting stripped. They're going up for layups. They're getting stripped, and They're not making their free throws either, but they're getting good looks from three. They're just not hitting them.
Yeah. And Boston hasn't had to play well to win this series. And I think that this series right now is a blessing in disguise for Boston because they were flaming hot against Brooklyn, flaming hot against Milwaukee. Now they finally have a down series, and they're still coming out on top of it. I mean, they're up 3-2 with a good chance of taking Game 6 when they meet up again. Personally, to me, this is only setting the table. They just went, hey, we can play bad and still win. In the East, we're going up against Golden State most likely coming out of the West. You got to get your shots down. Game 6 is a whole different monster for Boston now. They're not just looking to beat Miami. They're preparing for Golden State. And
I agree.
Part of me actually wants to think Miami's going to force Game 7 because Boston's going to get caught looking ahead. They're going to be looking ahead, trying to adjust that play style here in this game against Miami. Miami might jump them a little bit, but still, we're still talking about a Miami team that can't win a quarter of basketball.
Well, I mean, last night they won the first 2 quarters and they had a 5-point lead at halftime. I was thinking like, hey, they won 2 quarters in the game. It's more than they won all series.
Which means they won a total of 4 quarters in 5 games.
And they're only down 3-2. Like you said, if they can get this game, tomorrow night it would be anything could happen in Game 7. They would have the Game 7 at home.
They would.
They got to be so fortunate still, even though they lost last night.
The fact that the Heat are in this series is just it's a blessing for them because they don't have anything. And I said it yesterday on the show. I didn't like Miami because they didn't have that guy. Jimmy Butler ain't that guy. He's not a Tatum-esque player who can take over a game. He never has been. He never will be. Kyle Lowry has always been second fiddle to somebody. Kyle Lowry has never been tasked with leading a basketball team. You could say, but he was the experienced veteran with DeMar DeRozan. Yeah, but who was going off? It was DeMar up in Toronto. Then Kawhi comes in, carries Kyle Lowry to a championship. Lowry is out of there after the Raptors have a bad season. Well, he's still their main guy. Goes down to Miami here, makes some noise. But at this point, is he even playing second fiddle? Feels like he's barely playing the fiddle. He's got a fiddle with one string on it, and it's about to break. Kyle Lowry, to me, is the perfect example of let's stop expecting these players to go super long into their careers. He's 36. He probably shouldn't be in the starting lineup in the Eastern Conference Finals. That's the reality. People are relying on Kyle Lowry to play like he did 8 years ago. 8 years ago when he was getting owned by LeBron James. Every time. I mean, Kyle Lowry has never been a winner. Kyle Lowry has been carried to a win. He has never been a winner in his entire NBA playing career. He has not been a winner on a team. He has been there, but he has never won a game.
I agree with what you're saying. He's not gotten it done at all. And in these first, you talk about Jimmy Butler too. These first 2 games, man, he was playing out of his mind, dropping 30 and 40 in 30 or 40, whatever it was in the first 2 games. He hasn't done anything. This whole team has been bad since those first 2 games. Even the second game was bad, but the first one they won, and they at least looked somewhat good in it outside of that third quarter. Ever since then, it's been bad. It really has been. And do I think that part of me thinks that these last 2 games, they've looked pitiful these last 2 games. And part of me is thinking, I agree with you. That maybe they can go into Boston and get a win here because they showed they could do it in Game 3. Maybe Boston has a letdown. I'm not ready to give up on Miami yet, but it's looked terrible these last 2 games. Just bad. It
has looked terrible. And I think at this point, it's given me the realization that no one on this team is built for championship success. I mean, you look around, it's all guys that couldn't win on their own. Mm-hmm. And you put them together and expect them to win as a team. And, to being the part of Kyle Lowry playing third, fourth, fifth, fiddle probably shouldn't even be on the starting roster, your starting lineup for the night. Same could be said about, some of the other guys they have playing. Max Strus, he's young, untested. PJ Tucker, dude's been nothing but a choke artist in the playoffs. He's been on some good teams, but they all choked. And what's happening now for Miami? Jimmy Butler, whenever the going's gotten tough for Jimmy B, he quits. Mm-hmm. And what are you seeing? 40 minutes, 13 points? Jimmy Butler quit again. These last 2 games, Jimmy Butler played without heart. He was supposed to be the leader of this team. All the comparisons last week, all the speculation that, maybe Jimmy B is Michael Jordan's son. I can tell you he's not because he's a quitter. It's one thing Jordan never did in his career. That's why people loved him and hated him, is because he didn't quit.
Yeah, and I think
he didn't care if he was down. He was going to go out there and punch you in the mouth. And Jimmy Butler ain't that guy. Jimmy Butler's the punching bag. He's always going to quit. Again,
I think the part you're bringing up about MJ, it's not even the part he goes out there and hit you in the mouth. He literally scared the crap out of you. He scared the living daylights out of you when he goes out there on the floor. He tells him he's going to do.
Jimmy Butler. What's he going to do? Shoot a mid-range shot? He can't take it outside. He can't go up against my bigs. He's going to pull up from the mid-range and make it a quarter of the time. I ain't worried about that. He played 40 minutes and did nothing. He was about as beneficial as a bench player. Jimmy Butler is not a superstar in the league, and I really hope when these contracts get situated out that the ownership down there in Miami comes to the realization that they don't have a true NBA starter on their team.
That's fair. Because they really don't. Show me who played good last night. Nobody.
Show me who's played good for Miami well enough to, if they went anywhere else with a good team, would they be a starter? I can't say if you send any of these guys. I'll say to the Clippers just because that's a fairly loaded team of individuals that didn't play well at all together. But outside of Jimmy Butler, is anybody else in this lineup really starting?
Well, I agree with what you're saying, but
maybe the Lakers have the comparison. But I get
what you're saying. But there's about 2/3 of the teams in the NBA that would take any of these guys and put them in their starter lineup.
They would put them there. But do they really deserve that spot? Or is it just because that's Jimmy Butler? Oh,
exactly. That's what the NBA is.
Kyle Lowry this next year is going to be 37.
Yeah.
37 years old. This might be his final goodbye. It probably should be. After this abysmal showing, I doubt he wants to go out this bad. But I think an Eastern Conference Finals loss, which is a very, very common occurrence for his career, is probably the most fitting way to go out. That's as far as he's ever going to make it again. This is it for Kyle Lowry.
I think the thing is, and it's weird how in sports just how things turn so quickly, because we were literally just talking about 2 weeks ago when they were showing up the 76ers in the second round. Oh, the Heat have this culture like that, they're and that's gone out the window in this series. It really has. Last night you saw guys that I don't want to say they don't want to be there, because I mean nobody wants to shoot as bad as they have to. Like, you don't try to shoot that bad. But it's like it's more than just this not making shots. It just looked like they had no motivation last night. For the first half, they did. They come out in the second half flat. It just seems like people quit. I don't want to accuse anybody from quitting, but like you just said, it literally seems like these last 2 games, Jimmy Butler just doesn't want to be there.
Yeah.
And that's not the Heat culture that we've been talking about. It's not.
It honestly reminds me, and I know you don't like me bringing him up all the time, but when LeBron James quit, when everyone talks about him quitting in that series before he left Cleveland for Miami.
Boston, yep.
Yeah, it feels the exact same. Does it not? I mean, you just see these lackluster performances and 40 minutes, and you don't see that energy coming out of the leader anymore.
Well, my part of it is with people, like I'll use that example you just used it up, because I was actually going to say that before you even brought it up with the situation with him. Pretty much he did pretty much quit in that game 5, and then they lost in game 6. But I know it's because he had little help. He was frustrated. But as a professional athlete and a guy that's going to be considered one of the greatest ever, you don't quit. If you know you're going to leave, this team stinks, keep playing the way you're playing and then leave. Deal with it after that. And I'm not saying Jimmy Butler was leaving. I'm just saying keep playing the best you can, and eventually something's going to happen, because they've shown not playing well. They're in a 3-2 series right now. If they play this much better, win this extra quarter like we were talking about, they could be leading this series. That's how fortunate they should be, and they still have a chance to win it. It's not over. They have to come out in game 6, have a way better attitude than they have had, because these last 2 games it's been so noticeable, and it's been sad. They played terrible. There's no way around it. Those last 2 games, not even getting 90 points in this day and age in the NBA. In a playoff game. You don't see
that outside of the NBA Finals.
Yeah.
When both teams are just playing the very best. But the thing I was about to say, in this series, I mean, it's the 1 versus 2 seed. It's what you want, right? This is the series you want ultimately in the Eastern Conference Finals. You want your 1 versus 2. And that's what happens. But when you put great against great, you find out what great really means. And there ain't greatness in Miami.
And also, the thing that came to my mind last night is maybe not so much with Boston, but some of these teams in the playoffs, especially in the East, we thought it was so deep coming in. It showed that it really wasn't.
It was pretty lackluster, right?
It was. We were excited for it coming in.
I think a big part of that, though, is Joel Embiid's injury.
Yeah. James Harden's inconsistency.
This Eastern Conference, that injury, and James Harden,
declining.
Yeah. This completely changed the playoffs. And I think this playoffs has the biggest chance to serve as that changing of the guard, because we just had the NBA first team out, and I think it was the first time Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, or LeBron James hasn't been in the first team in the last 20 years almost.
Yeah.
Which is insane. And it was all of our young guys: Luka, Booker, Jokic, Giannis. It was a great lineup of guys, and I think this is that changing in the guard. It wasn't those guys who made it down, but they are the future. In the future is probably next season. We're not too far away. I mean, the days of Lowry probably gone. I mean, he's not near the point guard he was back in Toronto for a decade. I mean, honestly, out of any team, and I'm not even going to say just the Eastern Conference, in the Western Conference, was it really that deep?
It's going to be.
It's going to be.
Next year is going to be insane in the West.
Yes, it will be, and that'll be awesome. But right now, I mean, when you look at it, when we're trying to say which is the better conference, is there really one? Because at the moment, you get all the talk during the season, that Western Conference had such a great top. What happened to the two top teams in the West? They went down.
Yeah.
In the conference semis, let alone, the conference finals.
And I think too, you could potentially be saying that same thing about the East maybe next year, but especially in 2 years from now. Because you're going to have teams like
next year, if the best team in the East isn't Boston, I'm going to be disappointed.
It should be. Now I don't know if it will be, because they're having a great year this year, but they haven't been consistently putting good years together in a long time. So we'll see. But the thing is, it's like you have teams, and I'm going to throw our team in there. You're going to have the Cavs in there next year. If things go according to what we're thinking should happen, they're going to be that's the thing. There's so much young guys, especially in the East right now. The reasons why we're looking at it right now, thinking, hey, maybe it wasn't as good as we thought it was, because some of these teams lost, but there's a lot of young players, and they're all learning how to win. They don't know how to win yet. That's why there's so many upsets, or whatever you want to say. You could even say it in the West, too, with John Morant and the Grizzlies. And I know the Suns were just in the finals last year, but they're still learning how to do it consistently. And I think it's going to be deep in the East in the next couple of years, too. If the Hornets keep getting better, if the Cavs keep getting better, some of these playing teams, if the Hawks were playing the team this year, they were just in the conference finals. It's going to be, I think this is the deepest the league has been. And I know we just talked about, things have fallen off, but these superstars coming up are young. They're going to keep getting better and keep learning how to win. And that's the other thing I was going to say, too, about last night. I'm sitting there watching this, if the Cavs could have won that play-in tournament, we wouldn't play in Miami. Not saying we would have beat them, but the way they look right now, it makes you wonder, hey, what if they didn't play this? What if they played this bad in the first round if the Cavs would have got them?
Good shot. I don't know if we can go into Philly and beat them, but I'd love to try.
It just makes you wonder a little bit.
And keep in mind, when we're talking about, this Western Conference is going to be deep, John Morant, one of the best players in the Western Conference, is only 22.
Yeah, and I don't want to get
one's older than I am.
I don't want to get too off topic.
And he's one of the best players.
But I know we're going to get in the West here. That's why I'm kind of bringing this part of it up.
Yeah.
With Dallas, I know they're getting first deep run they've had since they've had Luka. We'll see if they can get better. So you have Dallas. You have Golden State, who's not going to go anywhere until those guys retire. You have Memphis, who has John Morant. You have. We'll see what Phoenix does. I mean, I know they got shell shocked.
They're going to have
Devin
Booker, and that's the thing.
And we'll see what happens with DeAndre.
They're not moving on from him.
Yeah, and you got all these teams, and that's why I'm
Donovan
thinking
Mitchell and Jokic as well in the Western Conference.
Yeah,
obviously different teams, but
that too. And they're going to. You can't forget Nuggets are going to have Jamal Murray coming back and Michael Porter Jr.
And the Timberwolves are going to be,
Timberwolves too. I was just going to say that. That's why some of these older teams, like maybe the Clippers and
the Pelicans. Can we just say if the Pelicans get Zion back, what this team could really be? Because I swear, even without Zion, they still find ways to win.
I know.
And it's like, come on, let's just see this happen. Before we go out there and throw the bus title like Matt does, I just want to see a season of it.
That's what I have been saying on the show. I want to see him play a significant amount of time before I call him a bust. Injury-wise, yeah, he hasn't been playing. But you guys know how I feel about that.
He's a bust, in my opinion, until he proves me otherwise at this point. So he's a bust. If he can come out here and change the rhetoric and change the storyline, I will be the first one to go, I am sorry, just as I was the first one to apologize to Joe Burrow.
I just think
me wrong, because he came out of college, I said that guy's going to be a bust. He's a former Buckeye quarterback. They never work out. He was in the Super Bowl. I went right out and went, my apologies, Joe Burrow. I will do the exact same thing for Zion if he proves me wrong. Until then, he's still a bust.
Well, see, I'm still riding with him because, I want to see what you do on the floor.
But I ain't going to be that guy.
Here's the thing. Like with Greg Oden, I'll use that example because everybody thought he was going to be great. He was injured his first couple years. He comes on the floor. He didn't do anything. So if Zion comes out on the floor and stinks it up after all these injuries, then I'll officially say, yeah, it didn't work out. You were a bust. But I want to see that happen first. And you guys know how I feel about it. If you're injured, you don't see the court. I can't say I want to. If you come out on the floor and stink it up, being healthy, that means you're a bust. You've done nothing. You were overhyped. That's it. But I haven't seen that from him, and none of us have.
When he's been on, he's been an all-star level.
Yeah, he has been. That's what I'm trying to tell Matt. But Matt's too thick-headed to listen to what I'm trying to tell him.
That's a fact. Matt is set in his ways. There are very few topics that you can sway him off of.
Yeah.
I tend to be able to be pretty good at it, but not too often. But that's what we're going to tonight's game for the NBA. Is we're already half an hour into the show. You know, we love wasting time talking about basketball because we know it's everybody in America's favorite sport.
Not Mike Wolfgang, it's baseball.
It's football on my side.
I like them all.
Yeah. Western Conference Finals, though. Dallas, they did it, man. They took the game. They took game 4. And, you know, I said it on the show yesterday to start things out. I just needed that to happen. I needed them. Even if they go down,
bad for you there.
The gentleman's sweep.
Yeah.
At least they took one. At least I got the right amount of games. That's sometimes the harder one to pick. You know, if I say
we don't know yet. We don't know yet.
I know. I'm just saying, but I'm like, if I say 5 games and it goes in 5, I got 50% of a win for me.
You weren't that wrong. You just picked the wrong team. Yeah.
Right. Pick the right games, wrong amount of time.
Hey, I'm still on track of mine. I said Golden State in 5. I came on the show the other day and apologized. I was like, I should have picked him in a sweep. But Dallas comes out and shuts me up and wins the game.
They went, hey, now we're not going down with that now.
Yeah, whenever I get too confident, it never works. But
don't you love that you go, finally, I know who's gonna win, and they don't. I mean, I swear, it's every time in sports you finally feel like, I know what's going on. This is nice. And Destiny just comes and slaps you and just goes, no. Not so fast.
Wouldn't you just like to be a fan of a team that just like that your favorite team? Like you're just sitting here like, man, I have 100% confidence that they're going to win. I can't say about any of my teams. I've never said that about one of them in my life before. I've never had that chance.
I mean, Ohio State football. I mean, I can't really go out there and complain. So
yeah, but they've won a national title. But I'm like Alabama. You know, they're going to pretty much be in the conversation every year. And they've won like 3 or 4 the last couple years. Like Ohio State, Ohio State,
you know, an Alabama fan, you ain't got to worry about a darn thing.
Ohio State, you know, they're going to beat every Big Ten team. Maybe do something in the playoffs and win the national title. But I'm just saying, like, I'm not just saying you're going through the whole season. You know they're going to win the championship. I've never said that one time in my life about any of my teams ever. Even when the Cavs won the championship,
you're a Pennsylvania sports fan, man. I'm sorry.
And a Cavs fan.
and a
Dallas Cowboys fan.
Dallas fan. Doesn't matter where in Dallas, you're a Dallas fan. So.
But even the year the Cavs won the championship, I'm like, they're going to mess it up somehow. Because that team was so dysfunctional, but they found a way through it.
You know, funniest part about that comeback, I didn't watch any of the NBA playoffs until they got down 3-1. And I watched Game 5. Then I watched Game 6 and 7 because they won them both. And I went, well, shoot, I watched it and they won. I got to keep watching.
Actually, I'll take that back. I know I just said start to finish, like the whole year, you know your team's going to win it. But like you said, from that 3-1, when they first went down 3-1, I was like, okay, it's over. But then they won Game 5, and I was like, those last 2 games, I was like, they're for sure winning Game 5 and 6, or 6 and 7. I was like, no way they're losing it. So that actually is the one time I've had confidence that, like, hey, they're going to win it. I don't have any doubt. But yeah, I mean, with Golden State coming back, sorry to get off track, but I mean, isn't that sweet though? Like they had a dynasty going. They have a couple injuries. Right to get healthy, they're right back in it. That's what my point was.
Does it not feel like Chicago's dynasty?
Jordan they had 2 off years.
2 other people get championships. He comes back and takes the next 3.
Well, and this too.
Here's Golden State right again after 2 years with a chance to win another title, and probably the favorite to do so at this point.
Oh, they're my favorite. They have been since
they've been dominating.
Good part of the year. Rolling. But I have the question, and I'm going to ask you this too. You just brought up the Bulls dynasty that, they're recognized as being the 90s team. Like, that whole decade was theirs. I know that it had the 2 off years.
The 90s was Chicago.
But, they win 3, they had 2 off years, then they win 3 more. And I saw a question the other day on one of the sports channels was like, is Golden State forming a new dynasty? To me, it's still the same dynasty. What do you think?
It's the same dynasty. I mean, if we're going to call Chicago,
still have the same guys. I mean,
if we're going to call Chicago's dynasty the dynasty, if we're going to say that was one dynasty, and Golden State is. It's not like they lost the players, did they?
No. Did they retooled a little bit, got healthy?
Key pieces? No. So I don't know who would come up and say that idea. Obviously, somebody that just wants views, if I had to guess, because that's idiotic. It's the same main players. They literally have the same. 4 of the same guys are in the starting lineup.
Yeah.
In Looney, Green, Clay, and Steph.
I mean,
darn. Andre Iguodala retired. Oh, darn.
No Sean Livingston. No
Sean Livingston. Gosh darn it, he didn't play into his 40s. Oh, how dare he. Players retire. It's the same team.
I get for that brief time they had Kevin Durant, but it started before that. This dynasty goes back the first time to beat Cleveland.
This dynasty was before Kevin Durant. And Kevin Durant, oh my, they lost one guy. And they were arguably better without him. Arguably. I mean, Kevin Durant is an all-around superstar, and Cleveland probably had a chance if he's not there. But Golden State as a team was better without Kevin Durant.
Oh, that year we won the title the next year when we were defending it in 2017. That was the best team the Cavs had, I think, that year after they won the championship. But they had Kevin Durant. I mean, you can't stop that. But yeah, this is the same dynasty. You only had 2 years removed. I mean, and you can even make an argument.
Technically 3, because they lost in the NBA Finals when everyone was like, Kawhi Leonard's destroyed the dynasty. And here they are again.
Okay, but you're in it, though.
Yeah.
You can't. You won, 3 titles in 5 years? That's a dynasty. And it still is. But, I mean, and you can even argue, nobody really cared about these last 2 years.
This year, and we start looking at titles again, it's just like, okay, they got more of them now, because they've won, that would be 4 titles since 2014.
Yeah, so that's
8 years.
4 8 years.
50% of the titles.
Yeah.
If they win it again in back-to-back seasons, if they take it this year and next, they just have the same amount of titles, I believe, now as Chicago, if they were to do that. Or right near it. Or same percentage.
They'll put them at 5. They need, after this year, they would need 2 more if they won this year. But
the point still stands. Their level of dominance is just behind that Chicago dynasty.
And you can even argue these last 2 years they've been injured and they've been retooling with younger guys. I mean, a lot of people, you can even argue these last 2 years because it got shortened and affected during COVID. It didn't even matter. For them, at least.
For them, no. I mean, what did they do since they lost the NBA Finals? They switched to a different city, got a brand new roster full of amazing, talented superstar rookies, a brand new arena to host these mega events in now. And here they are at the end of that, dominating in the playoffs with their same team.
Yep.
And what's funny about this dynasty to me with Golden State is the all-time record of Golden State Warriors, not including Philly and San Francisco, but all time with Golden State when they have been under that mantra since 1972. They have a losing record.
Well, you could count San Fran because they're back there now.
Even still, they have a losing record. That actually makes it worse. that actually makes it worse. Is if
okay, well then don't count that then.
The only time they have gone under a name and had a winning record was when they were in Philadelphia in 1947 to 1962, and they had a winning percentage of .506. It was that close to being under 500. 13 games. But right now, Golden State has a 48.1% winning percentage. If you put the last 50 years into a shell, they would have a season that probably doesn't make them eligible for the playoffs with that winning percentage.
Yeah.
which is just crazy to think about. We've seen this team dominate the last decade. The last decade they have been in the playoffs. Besides the 2 years that are flukes. We throw them out the door because it doesn't matter for them. It was like, oh, well, Chicago, they were really bad because, Jordan wasn't there in those 2 years. It's like, nobody cares.
And they weren't that bad.
At it, you go, oh, the Bulls won 6 titles in the 90s. No one ever goes, oh, but, those 2 years, they just weren't very good. And it's like, well, they actually were pretty good still, even without Jordan, because they put together a really freaking great team. But nobody goes and ever talks about those 2 years as being a part of the dynasty.
Yeah.
It wasn't Jordan.
Team of the 90s.
Came back
the whole decade,
went,
man.
oh, the dynasty is re-sparked.
They're a team of the 90s. Golden State's a team of the 10s. It maybe and even into the 20s if they keep this going.
I was going to say it's hard, but they won that first title in the 2014 season, so I'll give you that one. So it's a little odd to look at it that way. But I see what you mean. They dominated the last decade, at least, I could say.
Well, and that goes back to trying to get back into the series here. That goes back to what I said this the other day on the show. I expect Golden State to win it tonight because they respond. We've seen Boston, after, especially in these playoffs this year, they've responded after every loss. They've responded with a win. Golden State does not, other than that series against the Cavs when they won the title, they don't lose back-to-back games in the playoffs.
Yeah, they really never have.
And especially when they're coming back at home. I mean,
yeah.
I know it's different than Oracle, but that new Chase Center, it's getting there to being similar to it. It's a hard place to play.
That the fans are definitely the same fans that are showing up, creating that rowdy atmosphere. Dallas took it at home. Mm-hmm. They won that because it was at home. And I said it was very hard for a team to come in the playoffs and win back-to-back games on the road, especially in closeout scenarios. That's why I gave Dallas Game 4, because it was a near impossible task, even out of such a great team. We go back in here tonight, and as much as I want to stick with Dallas, Golden State's playing at home. They don't lose back-to-backs. They're still the same loaded team that they have been for the last
decade. They don't lose
decade.
at home.
And they are arguably a better team than when they had either Kevin Durant or when they had, Iguodala and all those guys and had the greatest season in the history of the NBA.
Yep.
Regular season in the history of the NBA. And we're winning 16 straight games on their way into the NBA Finals, This team arguably is a better team as a group with depth. When you're looking down a whole lineup, this is an arguably better team.
Yeah. And I think going with the game, I don't know if you guys talked about this yesterday when you guys did the show, but
probably
Dallas. Well, what I'm about to, you probably did. I got to bring it up because I wasn't here. Dallas shot the lights out, especially in the third quarter, and they only won by 10. So how do you not think that they haven't shown any ability, maybe in that Phoenix series, but in this series and some other games on the road, they haven't shown any ability for their guys to step up on the road and hit shots. And people were asking Jalen Brunson this question after Game 4. It was, you guys feel confident going on the road that you can hit these shots? And he's like, well, we'll see. We're gonna have to. I don't even feel like they're confident going into Golden State. That's a hard place to play, and it messes with you. They go on a big run. It's like it demoralizes you, especially in that building. So I mean,
Dallas let off the gas too early, and I think it hurt them in that Game 4.
Yeah.
You go into Game 5, and Golden State's coming in after a 39-point fourth quarter. That's a killer for psyche when you do all this all game long, and you hold the team down as much as you did, down to just 70 points in 3 quarters, and then you let them explode when you're rolling in there with near 30-point lead. That's a killer right there. That's going to ruin Dallas from being able to take Game 5 because they played such a great game and then they just let off.
That's what I was going to say.
They dominated 3-point percentage, by the way. 46.5% from downtown. 23s they knocked down, which I think was most in franchise history for playoffs, by the way.
But the thing is, this is what you're saying. It's because you want to have a win like that, especially when you're down 3-0. You want to have a win, period. But you have a lead like they had, and they let Golden State come back into it. Because I was thinking going in when that fourth quarter started, I was like, Dallas has to keep it somewhere where it is now. They're going to feel pretty good going into Game 5. But they let Golden State get on a little bit of a roll there and get back into it. So I think that's going to play into in this game tonight. I think Golden State's going to come out, not mess around. They don't mess around when it's these type of games, and they're going to take it tonight.
Well,
and that's my prediction too, because I picked them in 5 games. So
yeah, I gotta do it. Nice job, Micah. nice pick there. All right, thanks. Over into NHL. we had more games yesterday because we always do, and it was awesome because it went to overtime, and the Blues somehow win it 5-4 over the Avalanche. Matt and I were talking. It looked like the Avalanche was getting ready to put this thing away. They were having a great game after great game, and now the Blues force them deep into this game. Not only that, they hit those demoralizing shots. Third period, and they put 3 goals up when you already had Colorado leading this thing 5-1. And St. Louis just comes out here and goes, well, we're not done yet. Or 4-1, I should say. Not 5. 4-1, and we're not done quite yet. And they just storm back into it. And it's just like, where did this come from? Where has this St. Louis team been? Because we haven't seen this St. Louis team in this playoffs. They haven't felt like a team that could really take it to you like this. They had a good series against the Wild, but especially not after the first couple of games in this series that I expect St. Louis to actually stick it to Colorado. I figured if they were going to win, it was going to be a 1-0 game where Colorado just couldn't score. Yeah. And instead, the Blues went out there and outshot them.
Well, I don't want to ignore St. Louis. I'm not trying to ignore him here, but the first thing I lead off, did you see that goal from Nathan McKinnon?
Yes, I did.
Oh my gosh,
that was a good goal. I don't watch hockey very much. I got sent that goal and went, man, if every shot in hockey was like that, I'd watch hockey.
Dude, that was just that's if that wasn't number 1 on SportsCenter's top 10 today, I don't know what is.
Chef's kiss. It was
that was the work of art right there. That was a piece of art. But no, I mean, St. Louis stuck in it. I think that's what, when you're trailing a series, that's what you got to do, and especially when you're on the road. You got to stick with it. You don't let the crowd get to you. And it's easier said than done, but you got to hold your ground there, and they did. They stayed in arm's length, pushed it to overtime, and they able to put the cross-winning goal. They got to feel pretty good going back to home. I mean, I know you're still trailing the series, but against Colorado team that, by the way, Matt needs to explain about because he's been saying all year that they were overrated. He's wrong again, like he normally is.
Are we surprised?
No, but with Colorado, isn't it funny?
Matt throws things out there at the wall, and he doesn't know what he's throwing. He's just hoping they stick.
Isn't it funny that? I mean, I know Tampa Bay already advanced, but I'm talking the teams that are still playing right now. They're in the conference finals. There's still some second round series going on. Isn't it funny that the 2 best teams that are everybody's saying are left are the 2 teams I've been telling him all year they're not overrated? He doesn't listen.
Yeah.
And I'll say it to him tomorrow. He's on the show. I'm not afraid of him.
Too much. I prefer doing that to his face. It's too much fun.
I'm going to tomorrow. Don't worry. And he's going to have nothing to say. But
we'll put him in the center, and you and I can just look at him and start saying things.
I know it's still early. They didn't close out the series yet, but Tampa Bay's sitting there advanced, and he, whatever. I'm not going to keep. I'll get him tomorrow. You know I will.
You get him there. Oh, you better. But into the NHL for today, we got Rangers, Hurricanes, Game 5, all tied, and Oilers lead the Flames 3-1. Let's start out with the Oilers because it feels like a pretty set in stone. This thing's probably coming to a close in Game 5. Oilers are just playing too good right now, and the Flames are frauds.
I mean, Edmonton should have this locked up, but with a 3-1 lead, but they're not Pittsburgh, so they might close it out.
They're not from Pittsburgh, and they're not from Dallas, so they probably.
And they're not a team that Mike Wolfgang likes either.
Right, that's the big one. Mike doesn't like them, so they can win a series.
Yeah, no, but I think they can close it out because we talked about coming in this series, especially in that first round. We weren't impressed with what the Flames have done. We thought they were a team in the regular season that could make some noise, but I think Edmonton's got this closed up. They're playing a lot better. I thought this had a chance to go in deep series. It still can because it's a rivalry series, but Edmonton's. They were a little shaky in that first round too, and that's my question coming into the series. I was like, these teams are shaky coming in. I don't know what we're gonna get, so it might be deep, but they look pretty good right now.
Honestly, I'm not confident in. You look at the playoff bracket. I'm not really excited about any of the teams on that bottom side of it with Calgary and Edmonton, even Carolina and the Rangers. By the time they get into the Stanley Cup, they're gonna be so beat up. I mean. They both went 7 games in the first series. It looks like they're going to go 7 games again. And then you compare that to a team over in Tampa Bay that's gone 11 games instead of, that 14 on the other side. It adds up. Those extra 3 games in there at this level, at, playoff level, is a lot. And as we were saying, both these teams look shaky coming out of that first round. Who's to say that they aren't going to look shaky coming out of this? I think we're getting a false sense of confidence in these teams because they're both bad. and one is just tending to be worse than the other. In the playoffs, regular season, these are good teams, really good teams. But I can't say I've been impressed with what any of these teams have really done in the playoffs. They both went deep in series they shouldn't have, and no one in the bottom half has looked like a solid team the whole way through.
Oh no, you're not wrong about Edmonton. They're not. I don't expect much out of them.
I don't like Edmonton. I don't like Calgary. I don't like Carolina. And I don't like the Rangers. Yeah. Champion this year is coming out of the top half in Colorado and Tampa.
I think with Edmonton too, though, it's Calgary. We were talking about maybe they could do something this year in the regular season. Edmonton, we're like, I think they're still getting, because they just beat a team in the first round that they struggled with the Kings, that people were thinking like at the deadline they traded a bunch of the guys away. They had no business even being there, and they struggled with them. So I don't know. I'm not going to say they're breaking out against the Flames team in this series, but advancing, I don't know. I don't see them really doing anything else besides that if they advance, which they should.
I don't think either one of these teams any of the teams in the bottom half are taken.
Should be fortunate to be there.
Right. I don't think they're taking down Tampa or Colorado. The Stanley Cup this year really needs to be Tampa versus Colorado. They were the two best teams.
Yeah.
In these playoffs.
It might not be the most popular because everybody likes parity, but that's going to be entertaining if that happens. But we'll see. I'm definitely rooting for it.
Yeah, I am too, and that's why these two games tonight to me don't really matter that much because I don't think anything's coming out of it. But I got Oilers taking the series tonight at 9:30. Rangers Hurricanes. This is a fun series to look at because they're both exhausted. I don't expect them to do anything past this, mainly because of the fact I think they're going to just be absolutely wiped after back-to-back 7-game series. I mean, 14 games in 21 days.
Yeah, close to a month.
There's hardly any rest involved in this. They jump from one to another, and I know the hockey season, they put games closer together, but not at this rate, not at this level. During the regular season, you can afford to take a night off. You can go, you know what? I won't be in the starting lineup tonight. Put somebody else out there or give me limited minutes. Now it's, you got to go all the way, all the time, every day, every minute. It's 100%, and it's exhausting. And these guys are going to come out exhausted of it. That's why I don't think much going after this. But at the moment, they're both looking at the same series as each other. So I think the matchup going into tonight, great. But I don't think the Rangers have another deep series where they can really make that much noise in them again. They got such a physical one against Pittsburgh. It was so great. Credit to them if they can force this thing all the way to 7. But I really think Carolina can take this game, probably the next game. They're at home tonight, which I think is going to be a big factor in grabbing that Game 5 momentum. And you see it most of the time. The team that wins Game 5 wins the series.
I think Carolina is going to come out tonight and win. But you can't put this Rangers team because it really, I know it's tied right now 2-2. But Carolina really has not been able to crack Igor Shesterkin at all. And other than those few games in the middle of the Pittsburgh series, he was pretty rattled and he did not look like himself. He's bounced back in a major way, and he showed why he's one of the better goalies in the league. And I think Carolina's going to get it tonight, but it's hard to keep putting this Rangers team out of it when their backs are against the wall.
I mean, considering they've outscored Carolina 7-2 in the last 2 games, yeah, they've definitely done a great job all around, really. I mean, it's hard to say bad things about these teams because they're this far into it, but Sebastian Aho has been shut down by the Rangers defense.
Which I didn't expect coming into the series. I told you guys coming into the series I picked the Carolina Hurricanes in 6, and a big reason because of it was because of Sebastian Aho. But they've neutralized them, the Rangers have. You got to give them credit, especially these 2 games at home that they won.
Yeah.
They're game planning a little bit here.
Yeah, home team's taken it so far in this series. I don't think that changes up tonight.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to go Carolina, but this Rangers team, they're tough. They're physical, too. They beat up Pittsburgh and kind of put them out of it. That's why they came back. They're kind of doing it to Carolina. They've had they had some big hits against them in Game 4.
Yeah, they did.
That kind of took them out of it, so we'll see.
All right, let's check over into baseball here at the moment. Cubs and Reds, the only game going on. However, in the top of the 6th, they sit in a delay as the Reds lead at 11-5. And I want to point this out here. Since the Reds started that, 2-19, I think it was, something like that, they have one of the best win percentages in baseball now.
Oh, wait, let me find. I think I sent you this earlier.
Yeah.
I'll read off the teams. So, teams with a worse record than the Reds since they started 3-22 a couple weeks ago. there's 13 teams: the Blue Jays, the
almost
Braves,
half
the
the league.
Mariners, the Rockies, the Royals, the Guardians, the Pirates, the Nationals, Texans or Rangers, Tigers, Marlins, Orioles, and A's. It's 13 teams.
And I think what's most impressive about that is that's not because Cincinnati has been good. They've only won 9 games.
A lot of those teams have been bad.
Since then, or 11 games since then. It's just everybody hit this wall in the month of May. They hit that 1 month wall where all the fancy numbers, all the fun statistics stopped. Welcome to baseball season. If you pretty much play 500 most of the time. And I feel like that's what we're getting now. Teams got their leads. Now everyone's kind of sitting here waiting for something to happen. And, it takes a while. Normally, we don't get there until June or July, right before that all-star break, leading up to it, those couple of weeks. That's when the numbers start jumping back at you as everyone's like, ooh, I want that extra, I need that spot for my contract. So I got to put in a little bit more to get into that all-star game for my contract. And
trade value, the deadline.
And trade value, especially, is a big thing in this month of May. Teams are going to see, all right, what's this change up we want to make before we get to the place where we can't anymore. We got to make those September call-ups. They got to figure things out. And it really comes down quick in baseball. As rapid as it going, you got games every day. You're looking at these numbers constantly changing, and it puts these teams in a tough spot. And I love this time of the year because I think you really tell what teams are made out of when you get into this month of May. And that's why now we were looking so deep this entire month into trends for this month and what we thought was going to happen, because I think it's more often than not the most unpredictable month in baseball, because it's right after the start. We get through May and April, we get through spring training and stuff in March. We play in April and
parts of May.
Yeah, and now we're into May, and you hit this wall, and everything is like, all right, who's going to be the first to jump over it? And it looks, at the moment, it's New York, the Yankees. The Yankees were the first one to hit that 30-win mark and jump over it. They passed that. Now we're waiting on other teams to see who's going to do it next. We got a couple teams right on the edge. Tampa Bay's got 28. Minnesota's at 27. Houston's right there at 29. The Angels are at 27. The Mets are at 29. The Brewers are at 28. The Dodgers are at 29. The Padres are at 28. We've got a lot of teams right there. But San Diego could have hit that already. They could be number one in their conference, but they lost the last 2 games. They lost the last 2 to San Francisco, who's now jumped up, winning 4 and 6 of their last 10, so still not great baseball. And no one's taken that jump. New York's been at 29 wins for the last 2 games.
And they've consistently been, the Yankees, from start to finish, the best team in baseball, consistently. They have. And I know they started out somewhat slow, but that was about a week or 2. But other since then, they've really looked like the team to beat in the Major League Baseball so far. We talked about the Mets; they're starting to fall a little bit. So I was kind of thinking earlier on when I was looking at standings, like maybe teams that were surprised that they started out slow, if they can keep going or not. Mets were one of the teams we were talking about, but you're getting to that point where you're not going to consistently be dominant the whole year unless you're a Dodgers like they were a couple years ago. But
and even this year, they still look good.
Yeah.
What, are they really that dominant? I don't know if I can say that.
Not
They're
with the Pirates
below
being
the
2 out of 3.
respected win-loss record, and they have the best differential in all of baseball by a mile, and yet they're not the best team in baseball.
Pirates took 2 out of 3 of them, so they're not dominant then.
No, even the Reds made it beat the Dodgers.
I know. I was just going to say with the Reds,
the Dodgers are going to win the World Series this year, even with the stacked team, because unless something changes up here in the next few months, which it will, but at the moment, you're not seeing this Dodgers team with that level of dominance anymore. They aren't the dominant Dodgers. They're just the Dodgers. They're still the Dodgers, but
and they're going to be the Dodgers, but
they're going to be the Dodgers. But at the same time, I don't feel that dominance that they had, and I think it's one of those things that it's rare to get that dynasty, and we're getting it right now in basketball. But you don't get these dynasties in baseball. Really, not anymore. You don't see it too often these days.
Last time there really was one was the Yankees in early 2000s.
Yeah, that's
been a while.
When they had a loaded team of just every best player in the league. But now everybody's got the best player in the league on their team.
Yeah, but I want to go back.
We've reached a level in sports where you literally just have to have the most superstars, because every team's got a superstar. In every sport, every team's got that guy with just the ability to beat you in every way possible. Mm-hmm. And you just have to put as many of those together as you can.
Yeah.
And that's what sports has become. And I think that's why a lot of people have lost interest, because you don't see this parity because teams have had to load up so much.
That's one reason why I like baseball the most. There's always parity. We sit here and talk about the last couple years we've had the show, we sit here every year and talk about Yankees are stacked, Dodgers are stacked, but they don't win it every year.
No. When was the last time Yankees won again?
2008? No, 2009, I think, or something like that. Something like that.
09, yeah.
I know the Dodgers won one. Yeah, I know the Dodgers won one, but the last decade or so, the best team does not normally win. The team that's loaded and spends that much. As much as we sit here and talk about, baseball needs to implement a salary cap and make it more competitive, the best teams don't always win.
Well, that's the only thing. It's like we always talk about it, and I'm all for getting the chance to make some of these younger guys more money and cap them out to make some teams more competitive. But at the same time, it's not like we've seen one of these teams become super dominant. So I think that's a big reason why you don't see people going out there and saying, in the ownership wise, saying we need to really make a change up, because it hasn't really mattered. I mean, you look here, since the 2000s started, back-to-back champions just haven't really happened. You don't get a lot of it. I mean, it went from, I think it was the Yankees, they won it back in 2001. Then it was the Angels and the Marlins and the Red Sox. Then it went to the Astros, then the Tigers. Then Colorado took it. And then, it was the Phillies won it.
Yeah, they won one.
In 2008. Then it was Yankees in 2009. And you see this path. It's hardly ever the same teams even playing in the World Series.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, it's one of those things. Do we really need to make that change up? Because teams are winning anyways, different ones. I mean, last time we had a repeat champion was 98 to 2000. Yankees in 98, 99, in 2000. They also won it in 96, but the Marlins won it in 97.
It kind of hurts the argument for salary cap. It does.
Right, we haven't had a repeat. We've had the same teams get there. I mean, Dodgers have been there a lot. Houston's been there a lot. But Houston's been there 3 times and won it once in the last 8 years.
Mm-hmm. And they look good this year.
Yeah, and I mean, the parity that we have now allowed us to see Chicago versus Cleveland, maybe the 2 most unlikely candidates in the World Series.
Well, I wouldn't say that year. The Cubs were pretty much the best.
That year they were both good, but at the same time, I mean, both teams came in with over half a century long droughts.
Yeah.
And Chicago's was 100 years.
Yeah.
So we're actually out of time. However, though, on the Casual Sports Podcast, we ate up another hour. So you're going to have to come on back tomorrow to hear the rest of our discussions. I've been Alec Caverna. That man right there is Mike Wolfgang. I never know which way to point. I should by now. But Matt Morrison will be back with us, I think, next week. So you get to see me and Mike's smiling faces tomorrow. So that does it. Peace out.